listening to Freshly Squeezed.
There isn't anything I'd want to do more than what I'm currently doing. I think that's what's the nicest thing about it, and there's so much more of a brotherhood between the five of us who tour around everywhere we go. I wouldn't change anything at all.
Here we go, another Freshly Squeezed, another load of brilliant new bands to discover. Let's do it. I'm Jim, and if you're new here, all you need to know is this is your go-to podcast for finding your next favourite band or artist. Each week, tunes and chat from some of the best emerging talent in the UK and sometimes beyond. And this week, that talent is made up of the Empire Police, who have big plans coming and a big new tune called Crawling Distance. Then Nas, Danny Mellin as well, brand new artist for me, and I hope he is for you as well, and I hope you're going to like him. He's going to be talking about his Mancunian influences and his brand new tune.
Don't leave me lonely. She makes me feel a different way.
I'm also going to be giving Crystal Tides a bell. I have their number here on a bit of paper, old school. Hopefully they pick up, and hopefully we can talk about their forthcoming debut album, which doesn't have a name yet, and a cracker of a new single called Movies.
Tell me I'll be whole again. I can't see no common sense. It's so easy in the movies. It's so easy in the movies.
But first up, Felix Hill. Chatting to him shortly, but first a taste of his new gear. Get your lighters out for this one. It's called Save the Tears for Later.
It's funny how the days roll by into a different now, a different sky. It's funny how the winds have changed, the sails have caught against the grain. I thought that I'd feel braver. I wave you off, you drive away, fighting a fear from my face. I'm sat alone in a strange place, wondering if I made a mistake. I keep it all between these walls and save the tears for later. And save the tears for later.
That is Felix Hill, and so is this. Welcome to Freshly Squeezed, Felix.
Thank you very much for having me.
Lovely to have you on. So we're going to talk about Save the Tears for Later, which is your brand new tune, written in partnership with Liam Gallagher's drummer, Dan McDougall. I want you to be honest before we get started. Was you working with Dan just an excuse to try and blag tickets to the reunion at some point?
That would have been a good plan, but this actually happened quite a while before the reunion was even announced. So if that was the intent, then it was sort of a genius move on my part. But no, that wasn't.
So how did it come about? How did the relationship with Dan start? How did you end up writing a song together?
So his manager is a fan of my music and he's helped me a bit along the way. And he just suggested, why don't you write with Dan, who I manage? So I was like, absolutely, yeah. So I went to London and recorded at his studio, and the song came out.
And what was that process like? I mean, when you were thrust into a kind of relationship like that, where it's like going, you need to work with you to make this, I can't even imagine how that would be. Is it a quick creative process? Do you kind of have getting to know your meetings? What's that process look like?
I'd never met him before that day. We'd exchanged a few texts and things. I'd also never written with anyone else before, ever. I'd only ever written on my own. So it really was sort of it kind of felt like a baptism of fire, of sort of not knowing what it would be like, because everybody sort of writes differently. But I came to the session with some stuff I was already sort of working on. And I was just playing through some stuff. He actually forgot the key to his studio, and he joked, write me a song while I'm out. And I actually came up with the part of the verse while he was away.
Wow.
So I did sort of follow what he said. But yeah, I mean, it was an incredible experience. He's an unbelievable writer in himself. He's written with loads of people, but he's just a phenomenal musician as well. It was amazing to watch someone who's just so good at what they do, just doing it so well.
I think the song has got a bit of a Liam Gallagher solo stuff vibe about it. I'm thinking of kind of the softer tunes he does, like Once, for example. Was that a subconscious thing, or was that something that Dan maybe brought to the party? Because I don't think I've necessarily heard that in your music before.
Yeah, I mean, I also discovered, which is funny you mentioned that song. I'm pretty sure the acoustic guitar being played on that song is the guitar from Once
Oh,
as
wow.
well. Because, yeah, that's funny you mentioned that song. I'm pretty sure that's true. It's sort of just bouncing. Yeah, maybe he brought a little bit of that sort of energy, because I guess a lot of that comes from the drum groove as well, which is obviously that's one of his main instruments. So I think it's just sort of that really big sounding kind of chorus sing along sort of thing, which we managed to capture. Yeah, which I think maybe partly driven forward by him. But again, I think it's just a combination of working in a slightly different way. You just sort of get a bit of a different result come out, really.
One of the unique things about this song, I think, is the subject matter. It comes from an angle that I don't think has necessarily been explored in song before. It's clearly quite an emotional track. On a first listen, my takeaway was it was about a relationship breakup or something like that. But the starting point was quite different, I understand, and also very personal to you and your experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand why you would think a relationship. I'll say what it is about when I was writing it, but I kind of enjoy people sort of giving their own meaning to things that they listen to. But it was I wrote it especially about the moment where sort of you're dropped off at uni for the first time by your parents, and sort of they've driven off, and suddenly you're alone in this strange room in a new city you've never really been to before, living with complete strangers. So I mean, it's mainly about the initial university experience, but some of the verses also kind of explore that, it is fine, like you're having a good time, you're meeting new people. And one of the lyrics is, it's funny how somewhere new can start to feel a lot like home. So it's sort of just about settling into uni, really.
In terms of home, obviously you've been at university in Liverpool. You're currently in Bolton, where you were born. You've also got a relationship with Manchester. It's pretty much where you made your name, playing those smaller venues in the city of Manchester. You're a bit like one of those footballers who switches from Arsenal to Spurs at some point. But I'm interested to know, if you kind of went, these are my people, this is my home, which of those three locations would be the one you picked?
What, between Manchester, Liverpool and Bolton?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, from a musical playing point of view, Manchester, because I've played so many different gigs there, and it's always sort of, especially as being a little kid going into Manchester, it's really not that far from Bolton. But when I only really went into it when I was about 15, 16, it's when I started going to gigs and stuff. So I feel like when I think of music, I sort of think of Manchester. But at the same time, I really, really enjoyed playing in Liverpool a few times while I was at uni at places like the Jacaranda and Casimir Stockroom. Yeah, they're both great cities, but I've mainly played in Manchester. So I feel like it's sort of the place to be, really, for music in the Northwest.
Good choice. Very diplomatically put as well.
Yeah.
So, Felix, you've got one of those names that sounds like a name, but also sounds like a place, if you know what I mean. Like, you can imagine Felix Hill being this lovely kind of leafy hill somewhere in the Lake District. And there are other people who have a similar thing going on. I'm going to give you some clues to some people. I want to see if you can complete the person I'm talking about. So, for example, US actor and comedian Chris. So the answer would be Rock, Chris Rock.
Oh, I see. Okay, right, yeah.
So I've got three for you here. We're going to see how you do in terms of scores, okay?
Okay, if it's anything based on that example, it might not go very well,
Yeah, it
but
might
I'll
not be
give it a
brilliant.
go.
You might get the first one.
Okay.
Iconic music producer, produced Cortina's St. Jude, Stephen
I don't know.
Stephen Street. This game was much better in my head than it's turning out to be.
I think I'm just a rubbish contestant. I don't think it's the...
We're going to crack on. Maybe related to you, ex-UK sports presenter Jimmy.
Unless it's Hill, I don't know.
It is Jimmy Hill. Well done. 1 from 2. Final one, UK singer-songwriter, Love as a Hat, James
I'm not sure.
Bay. And the reason I mentioned James Bay, there was method in this madness somehow, is that is one of the artists that you have been compared to previously. Also, I've heard you compared with George Ezra as well. How does that feel at the stage you are? You're still in those early days of being a musician. How does it feel when you get mentioned in the same breath as the likes of James Bay and George Ezra and a load of others as well?
I think it's very flattering, especially because I say both of them are very interesting and unique voices, which is something which I have been told and like to think that I've got quite an interesting voice. So to be compared to people like that is great. But I've had lots and lots of different comparisons, and they're all very lovely. So, I mean, some people don't really like it when they're compared to other people, but I think it's just sort of, it's meant mostly, I think, not maybe not always, but mostly as a compliment. So yeah, it feels great.
Felix, lovely to speak to you. Really enjoying the new tune, Save the Tears for Later. I've enjoyed seeing you develop over the last couple of years, and I'm looking forward to seeing where you're going to go next. But brilliant to have you on Freshly Squeezed.
Thank you very much for having me.
Fighting a feel from my face. I'm sad alone in a strange place. Wondering if I made a mistake. I keep it all between these walls and save the tears for later. And save the tears for later. And save the tears for later.
Brand new music from Felix Hill. Do you get the Liam Gallagher once thing that I referenced when I was talking to him? Feels like this could be the start of something big for Felix. So next up, it's new music from Empire Police. But before we do that, let's have a chat with Jordal from the band. You okay, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. Am I right in thinking that next year, 2026, is going to be 10 years as a band, a decade?
It was actually June of this year.
Oh, June of this year, right.
Yeah. So we've just crossed the 10-year mark.
Did you do anything to mark it? Was there any kind of like significant event, celebration?
We ended up booking a gig in Blackpool on the same date, purely by coincidence, to be honest. But that turned out to be a good one, to be fair, a good way to celebrate.
Nice. Do you use that as an opportunity to kind of sit back and reflect where you've been and what you've done over the last decade? And if so, as a band, when you look back at the last 10 years, what do you pick as the highlight moments?
For me personally, I'm always trying to look forwards to what's going to be happening next. But I think looking back, big highlight was we played the O2 Academy in Liverpool. That was really good, supporting the Sherlocks. That was a few years ago now. That was a really special one. And just in general, just kind of building our fan base in our hometown and kind of moving out into other places as well. Just kind of looking back and seeing, the gigs that we've managed to play both at home and in other surrounding cities, and just feeling like we've managed to kind of build a fan base sort of from scratch through what we're doing.
When you play those support shows for the likes of the Sherlocks, and there's some other bands on that list as well, Rats and the Blinders, does that, I mean, it's great playing your own headline shows, obviously, but when you play that and you've got that slightly bigger venue, slightly more people in the audience, does that kind of give you that real hunger for what you can go on to achieve? Yeah,
definitely. I think we see that as an opportunity to play to a brand new audience who might never have heard of us before, and to try and convert them into fans, So every gig like that we do see as an opportunity to try and take some new fans and to hope that people are enjoying what we're doing, really.
Do you ever manipulate your sets to kind of fit that audience? So like a band like Blinders, for example, they're kind of a little bit raw, quite punky. Do you kind of try and pick a set list that will appeal to that audience? Almost like a gateway drug kind of thing.
From time to time, yeah. I mean, a lot of the more, I'd say maybe more indie pop style stuff was quite a while ago for us now. So sometimes it can feel like we're playing stuff from years and years ago just to play it. So I think I'd say we usually offer a bit of a mixture. If we're playing with a certain band, we'll try and throw in a couple of songs that we know their audience might resonate more with. But more often than not, especially with the record coming out in October, we're trying to kind of focus more on the newer stuff.
Well, let's talk about the new EP. You want to look forward. So it's coming in October. And back in your kind of early stages, you very much cited the Cribs as a key influence. From what I can hear from the new EP, you've moved away from that slightly. There's maybe a bit more synths, maybe a slight 80s influence going on. Do you still consider the Cribs as central to your sound?
I mean, me personally, I think it's still got that quite punky edge, whilst also being quite accessible, which I feel like the Cribs did really well without compromising on the music that they wanted to make. I think some heavier rock influences have started creeping in, like bands like Biffy Clyro. And then I think that a lot of the synthy stuff is kind of everything, a band who our drummer Harry absolutely loves, we're all big fans of. So I feel like those sorts of influences have started to creep in over the years as well, and kind of help to develop the sound.
It's interesting you mentioned those two bands, because I saw a couple of weeks ago you stuck a list on social media of different songs that had inspired the new single Crawling Distance that we're going to play in a bit on Freshly Squeezed. And it's a really eclectic mix. There's a couple of Biffy songs on there. I can hear Biffy Clyro front and centre, by the way. I think that's definitely there. Everything you mention as well. Spin Doctors are on the list. It's like I say, there's a real kind of broad musical palette there. Is that how you work as kind of a songwriter? You're a bit of a musical magpie where you hear something in a tune and you think, oh, I love a bit of that, and you reimagine it then in your own style.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think the same applies to all of us individually as well. We're all into a lot of the same music, but a lot of different music as well. So I feel like Tom, our guitarist, for example, his favourites will start creeping into some of his guitar work. Same with Sam, our bassist, who chose the Spin Doctors track, and Harry, our drummer, who like I say, is a big everything fan. So I feel like it's all of our individual influences that kind of come together and merge to create what we hope is a unique sound.
Goes hand in hand with a little tour as well, predominantly in the Northwest, including a gig in your hometown of Preston. It's been a while since you've played Preston, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was our end of year party, which has become a bit of an annual thing. So we played in December, and I don't think we played there since then. So that'll be a good one. So it'll nearly be a full year since we played there. And that's the EP launch show as well. We're going to have some vinyl and some new merch on sale, and hopefully a packed house as well.
Are the hometown gigs still kind of the highlight of a tour like that? You expect the best crowd? You expect it to absolutely go off?
I would say so, yeah. Especially in a venue like the Ferret, which we've frequented for so many years. I think, yeah, those ones are always special. No matter how many times we go and play there, it still feels fresh. It still feels like people are just as up for it as they were when we first started playing there years ago.
Well, we're going to play the brand new tune, Crawling Distance, on Freshly Squeezed. It is a bit of a change in direction, a new chapter, if you like, for Empire Police. Tell us a little bit about it before we get it on.
I think Crawling Distance essentially is a song about being your own worst enemy, kind of self-sabotaging because you're maybe not scared, but maybe a little anxious about things going wrong. It's kind of that song about doubting yourself and how that affects your relationships in life, and how you're always kind of within crawling distance of where you need and where you want to be, and yet you still manage to mess things up and to get in your own way.
Looking forward to the new EP. Good luck with the tour as well, and keep us up to date with the debut album when it comes as well.
Absolutely. Good to speak to you, man.
To account for, they only ever amount to the downfall. I seldom rise above this surface level love, within crawling distance, but still not close enough. Self-medicate or self-destruct, that's the caveat, the crux. That's a quick fix turned a crutch. The labour of loading, the labour of love, crying shame, but nonetheless always the same when we just obstinate. Fingertips away, I have to change, but in time am I defined by every choice I've made. Can't help but contemplate. It's more than I can take, it's more than I can take. Self-sabotage and silver linings, realign and reconcile. There's no such thing as perfect timing. I always crash and burn in style. It never sinks in till I'm sinking. So that lead paint stare sets in, forever crawling on the brink of finding solitude within.
Catch them on tour and keep an ear out for the debut album. Details coming soon. That's the Empire Police. But now, focus turns. That was a bit Jules Holland, was it? Oh, now. No, that wasn't. But the first bit was. In my head, it sounded like Jules Holland. Anyway, but now, the focus turns to a busker turned solo artist turned band project. Danny Mellin. Welcome, Danny.
Cheers, mate.
Busy summer for you so far. Truck Festival, Tramlines Festival, Isle of Wight Festival, as well as planning for the debut album. Have you had any opportunity to kind of catch your breath and reflect so far this summer?
I think when I do, it's more intense. I think when you're kind of doing quite a lot and keeping busy, whether it's releasing or playing shows, it's always that minute when you breathe that everything feels more like, oh, bloody hell. Yeah, it's been, I can't complain at all, mate. Like, it's such a dream to be able to play any of these festivals and be releasing music the way we are now. It's all going really smoothly, and I couldn't be happier. So just to be able to have those opportunities and doing what we're doing is an absolute blast. So yeah, no complaints really at all, but just having a whale of a time and enjoying every second.
You might have just answered my next question, but I guess you're kind of at an age where a lot of your mates at this time of year, they're going to be going off on lads' holidays, having it big in Ibiza or whatever it is. But this is where the graft is for you, kind of summer festival season. Is there any element of kind of seeing your mates posting photos on Instagram and kind of going, oh, I fancy a bit of that actually, rather than standing here playing tunes?
To be honest, Rob, I do see my mates post things on the line. I think few of them went abroad recently to Europe, but if I'm being honest, there isn't anything I'd want to do more than what I'm currently doing. I think that's what's the nicest thing about it. And also my best mates are in my band anyway. I'd say that as I've got older, there's so much more of a brotherhood between the five of us who tour around everywhere we go. So I think I wouldn't change anything at all. And I'd much rather be going and playing, a show for half an hour and having an experience that is such a fun and exciting thing to do that I've always dreamed of doing. And I see my mates going abroad and that's all cool. But we're all got a different lifestyle ambitions, and for me, I get the beers for free when I do my gigs, so I can't complain.
You're doing your thing, you're loving life. It's good to hear. So you're from the southeast of England, but one of the influences you cite in your music is kind of the 90s Manchester scene. We feature a lot of Manchester music on Freshly Squeezed. Now, I'm interested to hear that because when I first heard your music, I've got to say, 90s Manchester wasn't something that instantly jumped out at me. Maybe a bit of Cortina's in there on occasions, but the musical comparison that I pick up from your music more than anything else is Sam Fender. So where are those 90s Manchester influences? What are they?
Oh, bless you. Well, that's awesome, man. Thank you. Sam Fender is one of those artists I think that actually wanted to me make sure doing any sort of thing I'm doing right now. I saw him when I was 16 at Shepherd's Bush Empire, and that was a real game changer for me to be able to see a solo artist playing with the band the way he did. He's had a huge, huge impact on my songs. With Manchester and all those sort of grooves, I think it often goes down less in the melodies and the lyrics maybe themselves, but more of the type of rhythm and beats that can be going on behind the scenes. With this new single, Don't Leave Me Lonely, the groove itself is very inspired by a lot of that sort of 90s Manchester groove that you can hear in like the Charlatans songs, like The Only One I Know, but also like bands like, from Manchester, like the Stone Roses and all that type of groove. I think that type of drum beat was something that was really influential. It's always been a thing for me with writing where I always try to seek something that is slightly new for me. And I constantly get inspired by listening to new types of music, no matter the genre. If it's got something that's hooking, and a big part for me that's always inspiring for me, no matter the genre, is the rhythm of it. And if it is something that is a bit different, it always catches my eye. So that's kind of where that sort of sonic landscape, I guess, came from. And tonally, we wanted to have a little bit of a pushing of those kind of influences, and we're trying to keep them fresh and new. I guess with the new record and the whole upcoming album in general, we didn't want to do a retro thing where we're like trying to replicate something of the past, because that's already been done. But the beats, the rhythm, the sentiment in the lyrics are things that I do try to look back at with things like Manchester, other genres such as Motown. There's lots of influences, bit of a melting pot.
Let's rewind a little bit to the early days of you as a musician. Started busking at the age of 14, sticking your music out online at that point as well, albeit cover versions. Shows a fair bit of confidence for a 14-year-old at that stage. Do you think starting out in those early days, earning your stripes at the age of 14 in front of audiences and online, has that put you in good stead for kind of what's on the roadmap now?
I definitely think that doing it from a young age was really helpful for me, like busking especially. I got very used to playing to no one, and like people would just walk past you. And it's learning, how do you, see those strangers? How do you get them actually interested in what you're doing? Because you can't just be cool and put sunglasses on and wear denim with a hat when you're 14. No one looks cool at that age. So you just got to play really, really well and really have a good stage presence. A lot of people growing up always told me my stage presence was really solid. I think it was basically because I'd learned how to play to absolutely nobody. And the only way you can gain anyone's real attention when you're playing for free in a street is by just looking confident and knowing what you're doing. And if you're 14, 15 busking, people are just going to be like in the street, like, wow, that kid knows what he wants to do. And I've kept that throughout my career. So I definitely think it was important to do, because it meant by the time that my band joined me when I was 16, I already had 2 years under my belt of playing around pub gigs around my local town. And I just, by that point, as soon as the band started gigging with me, we were out the gate pretty solid.
You kind of mentioned the transition there between playing on your own and busking and starting as a solo artist to being joined by a band. I note that when you've talked about kind of the musical development and you've talked about kind of those influences coming into the tune, you've never said I at any point. It's always been we. Is it very much now, I mean, your name's above the door, but is it very much now it's a joint project collaboratively? It's not just you and a band, it's in terms of in the studio and the creative process, it is all of you together?
I'd like to think it is, yeah. And I think if you asked the band, they would as well, because I don't think I've got the ego to really dictate any of my mates. Because the thing is that first, they are my friends. They're like my best mates. I've known the drummer in the band since I was 2 years old. It's been a long journey with them. And I think it would be one of those things where I know they're all really good musicians. And from the recording point of view, I do like to make sure that the parts that they write are collaborative. Whilst I kind of go into these sessions when we do the album and do the singles and EPs and whatever, I always have the songs structured or like at least vaguely, but I always like to let them figure out what part they want to play because they're all really good musicians in their own right and will always bring something to the table that I've not thought of, which might be over the chords pattern I've already written, but nevertheless there might be a fill that's added in, there might be a riff that's written that is so good, and if I went to them just to be like, do that, not only am I just not that type of guy anyway, I hate that sort of thing, it would end up being a lesser product anyway. So I'm very fortunate to be working with these lot, and if they tell me a song isn't good, they're going to tell me. They're not just going to pass it on quickly.
Has that happened? Has someone gone, nah, Danny, this is shit, mate, we're not having this?
A lot. But it's good. It's really good. It can often be an unwritten, unsaid rule, because if we are bringing these songs in and the band aren't straight away vibing with it and jamming straight into it, tend not to release those ones, even if they aren't bad, because I'm not the only one going to be playing them every night. And if my band hate it, it's just going to be a disaster. If they aren't vibing with it and there isn't this sense of this is really good, I can kind of figure out maybe this may one not get through.
We're going to play your brand new tune, Don't Leave Me Lonely, in a minute. But first, talking of that writing process, this is the quickest song you say you've ever written. Noel Gallagher famously said the same about Supersonic. 10 minutes, he kind of bashed that one out. Do you find that's often where the best stuff comes from, when you just sit down and something flows, something just happens?
When I wrote Don't Leave Me Lonely, it was one of those things where I wasn't putting much thought into it. I think as soon as you overthink it, there's that great quote, I don't know who said it, but like thought is the enemy of flow. Because as soon as you start overthinking about anything, the song is immediately this contrived thing. And with Don't Leave Me Lonely, it was a case where I was trying to write another song and I wasn't getting anywhere with it. So I just started writing another one just off the top of my head, just tried to think of anything that was just a bit of fun. And the majority of that song formed in that minute. And I finished it in such a quick time. It was crazy, to be fair. And I showed it to the band a week later and the rest is history. It was just a real nice freedom to that song, which I think allowed me to try new things out that I hadn't before with my melodies, with my rhythm, and was really fun and inspiring to write. And I think you can feel that magic still, even when we recorded it later on. So I'm really proud of this one.
Nice one, Danny. Really appreciate you speaking to me on Freshly Squeezed. A bit of a taste of the debut album that's coming out later this year as well. We're going to get it on, brand new tune, Don't Leave Me Lonely, on Freshly Squeezed. Danny, cheers for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Jim. Thank you, mate.
This is the one I never dare to find. She is the fire that burns inside my mind. For what I give is met with all of her. She opens up the door and I submerge. Don't leave me lonely. She makes me feel a different way. Don't leave me lonely. I know it won't be long and I will see her soon again someday. My heart's a bay when she's by my side. I live for when I wake up to her eyes. But that can't be while she rests across the sea, 1,000,000 miles away, or so it seems. Don't leave me lonely. She makes me feel a different way. Don't leave me lonely, 'cause I won't ever be the same.
Danny Mellin, Don't Leave Me Lonely. I spent the whole of that interview with Danny trying to work out who his voice reminded me of, who he sounded like. Not musically, but the way he spoke. And I think it's Chris Martin from Coldplay. Is it? This is Danny.
As I've got older, there's so much more of a brotherhood between the five of us.
This is Chris.
If God wanted us to be vegetarian, why did he make animals out of meat?
There's a similarity there, isn't there? We haven't got time to dwell on that, though, because it is time to wrap up today's Freshly Squeezed, a new music podcast. And hopefully we're going to do that with Crystal Tides, who I'm going to give a bell to. Like I said, I've got their number. Let's see if we can get them on. I know, I can't talk and type at the same time, but I know Billy's got an important thing to do today. So I'm hoping we can still catch him.
Hello?
Billy, Jim, you right for this podcast interview?
Yes, all good. Let's do it.
Cool, let's do it. In which case, welcome to Freshly Squeezed.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Congrats on the new song as well. Really enjoying Movies, which is a song about all the cloudy memories that you can have after a big night out. With that in mind, what did you get up to at the weekend, and are you still feeling the effects of that weekend as we speak?
Do you know what? I actually am. I went to Truck and Tramlines Festival working as a tech for another artist, and I'm getting too old to do stuff like that. I definitely don't want to drink again for a very long time, that's for sure.
Well, you're being brave then, because as we're speaking, people will be able to hear that you're on your phone at the moment. You're currently en route to get a train up to London for one of the final gigs to go and see Oasis on their reunion tour, which is going to be special, I guarantee it for you. So you're good going big this early after another big weekend. Oasis, one of those bands that have been influential on Crystal Tides and their music? Because I don't think it's necessarily immediately obvious when you listen.
Do you know, I don't think so. I don't often relate our music to theirs, but I think they have a massive influence in all sort of British indie rock, because all the bands that we probably do really take influence from, Oasis probably influenced them massively. So I think subliminally they definitely do have an influence, but without us sort of really knowing, you know.
You guys are from Portsmouth, which is a place that you describe in your PR as having a thriving music scene. And I'll be honest with you, when I think of Portsmouth, I don't necessarily think of the bands that have come from that part of the world immediately. Do you think that's something that is kind of fairly new for the town? Is it something that's grown in recent years, that you've got bands like yourself and Harvey J. Dodgson and people like that coming from the area?
Yeah, I think definitely in the last 2 or 3 years, it's sort of really taken its own whole new level, and loads of bands are emerging. And I've got bands like the Max, Coast, like you said, Harvey. There is a lot of talent in Portsmouth, and I think maybe before there was also a lot of talent in Portsmouth, but it's starting to really travel a little bit better. Before, I think where Portsmouth is an island, we had a little bit of island fever, and people sort of get stuck on the island. Whereas now it's starting to go past that, going into different cities, and it's actually starting to get a strong name for itself, I think.
Do you think any of that's down to the events that happen in and around the city? Obviously, Isle of Wight always had a status as a festival. Victorious seems to have kind of grown in recent years as well. Do you think that's played a part in that development?
Yeah, I think Victorious definitely. I mean, Isle of Wight I've been going to since I was a kid, but Victorious sort of gave a lot of Portsmouth artists a platform to actually perform on a proper stage. And I think Isle of Wight was always really tricky to get onto, being an up-and-coming artist, whereas Victorious is a bit more, it wants to focus the Portsmouth fans. So I think it's really, really helped grow Portsmouth's music team. So
this new single, Movies, is the first single to come off the as yet unannounced debut album, which is absolutely massive. We know it's coming, we don't know the titles, or you probably know the titles and when it's coming and stuff like that, but we're not allowed to talk about it yet. It's a big thing picking the first tune that's going to come from an album. How much did you sweat over the decision that Movies was going to be the first thing?
You know, this Movies was actually the easiest decision for the singles. And I think the reason why it was the first single was because it was the single that all of us agreed on.
Okay.
100%. So the next few singles, they were the difficult ones. And I still think there's actually going to be ones that change. But yeah, Movies was the first. Everyone was just like, yeah, that's definitely a single. So it made sense to put it out first.
In terms of the new record, is this single also a good sign of what is to come? And I'm sure there's been a development in your sound between what's happened before and your debut album. There always is. Does it feel like you've stepped up for this batch?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we sort of really, really tried to just make sure that whatever goes on this album is our best work. There was a lot of songs on there that maybe would have released a few years ago that didn't make it onto the album, but we sort of made sure we kept writing and kept producing the best stuff we could, and like really whittled it down to what we believe is the best. So yeah, I think Movies is a good indicator. For me, it's probably my least favourite single of all of the singles we're going to release. So I think that's a good sign. I think the next ones to come are really, really exciting. I think there's some that maybe don't sound completely like Crystal Tides, but there's still that element there. And there's still like that massive energy, but in a good way. I think we've sort of branched out a little bit into maybe other genres and captured it really, really well. So yeah, I'm just excited. Yeah.
All right, I can hear you need to get the train, and I don't want to either stand between you and the Gallagher brothers or battle with phone reception on Great British trains. So you go and get the train, and we'll get your new single on Freshly Squeezed.
Fall into the middle of the morning, wake up thinking what was said. Deep breath as the pain in my head seeps in. Don't think I can leave my bed. Yeah, the timeline from last night doesn't make much sense. Oh, and if I only didn't feel so lonely inside my head. So tell me I'll be whole again. I can't see no common sense. It's so easy in the movies. It's so easy in the movies. I don't wanna second guess. Clearly I just need some rest. It's so easy in the movies. It's so easy in the movies.
Done. Final tune from Crystal Tides, and a new album coming from them soon as well. They go quick, these podcasts, don't they? 4 bands featured, 4 bands you can go and find out more about. And from the sounds of some of those chats as well, there is loads more music coming from all of them. Links in the podcast description as always. You know the drill at this point by now. Do the follow thing, like the podcast, leave a comment, subscribe to the podcast. You probably hear me say this every single week, and if you've not done it by now, is this the week you're going to do it? Is me saying this going to make you do it? Probably not. It's probably going to make no difference at all. Or will it? Do you like being so predictable that I'm guessing your every move? Why not click that button? Go on, shock me. Follow the podcast. Be your own man. Or your own woman. Whatever you do or don't do, come back next week for even more new music with another Freshly Squeezed. Cheers for your ears.
Freshly Squeezed, a new music podcast, was devised, produced and hosted by Jim Salveson. Sound design and additional production by Ant McGinley. Theme music, Blue Blazer, is written and produced by Spin Class. Stop.